Hello, and I'm here today with Jordan Scott. And Jordan is the author of a beautiful new book, I Talk Like a River. And when I say beautiful, I don't mean just the images, which are gorgeous, but also the language. So Jordan, welcome. We're so glad you're here today.
Yeah, thanks a lot for having me.
So this is your very first picture book, huh?
Yes, it is. Yeah, I'm very excited about it.
But you're a very established poet and you're well known. So tell me a little bit about the difference in the writing process for children as opposed to your typical audiences, or maybe you don't even think about the audience, you just write.
Well, I mean, my my poetry started out with a concentration on stuttering, and I really found a home in poetry because of um, poetry is a lot about the fragment and a lot about sound and a lot about the kind of bending of sound and a lot about the body. So I found a home in poetry. So my poetic practice, as you said, has really developed over the years, but it's a real research-based practice, if you know what I mean. Like I do a lot of research on my books, particularly on the book I wrote about stuttering. So when it came to write children's literature, I I had to I think about a narrative all over again, right? Because that wasn't something that I was concerned about in my poetry so much. It was more sound and image and metaphor. So with children's literature, it's been so exciting because I can really blend a narrative with that minimalism of children's literature and poetry together. It's so challenging to just like encapsulate, like every syllable matters in children's literature, I find. And that really connects to my poetic practice. So it's very exciting in that way.
Yeah, every word has to work for its living, right?
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah,
Well,
exactly.
and the journey of this book is kind of fascinating because I'm sure when you started writing, you didn't think, oh, I'd really like Sydney Smith to illustrate this.
No,
How wonderful, right?
it's incredible.
When you found out he was going to be doing the illustrations, what did you think, and how do you feel about the finished book now that it's a
Well,
thing?
yeah, I mean, I knew of Sidney Smith before all of this. I mean, I have his books at home, in particular, Town by the Sea, which before I met him, I was reading to my sons quite a lot. So I was really familiar with his work and absolutely thrilled with, um, you know, I, d- I did Neal's decision to bring him into the book. Um, I mean, I think the work that he's done on this book is astounding. I mean, every page is it's like a universe unto itself, right? Um, and I've said this before, but he also manages to really take the notion of stuttering and im, im, embody it into the paintings that he's done. And what's so incredible about it is, and it's subtle, but he's also taken his materials and he's embodied stuttering with his material. So in the same way that I, as a poet, would use language as material to express and represent uh, stuttering, he does so with his uh, with his paint and with his brush stroke. It's really quite beautiful.
Well, I feel like we should show at least one picture, so I'm going to quickly see. We'll hope that this works beautifully. We'll have to see. So yes, isn't this gorgeous?
Yes.
Yeah, and this is where the protagonist is looking through the window, and the
Yes.
language and the image just work together so perfectly.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It really
Yeah,
is. Yeah.
I kind of feel like this is the perfect picture book because the language is, as you say, so spare and elegant and evocative, and the images so perfectly represented. It's just stunning. So
Oh, thank you for that. Yeah, I think so.
yeah,
Yeah.
and isn't it interesting that this book is coming out at a moment when stuttering has really taken the center stage, if you'll forgive me, um, with
Yeah.
with Joe Biden and his
Yeah.
interchange with the child. I mean,
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. With Braden. Yeah.
yeah,
It's, and um, it was so heartening to see that too, because, well, there's a couple things there. I didn't I know that Joe Biden carried poetry with him, particularly Yeats, to as something that I believe he said something that his mother uh, told him at an early age to help him like, through. My mother did the same thing with Yeats too, which was just a really incredible coincidence. She uh, yeah, she's also a poet and a big reader, so I really like that, like the connection. And it's also, I mean, I'm Canadian, so I
why would
didn't
you?
really know a lot about Joe Biden, but certainly when I heard him talk, I I would get that feeling uh, that I think only stutterers get, where you recognize yourself. And I know that there was a lot of people talking about how he was, having like that perhaps it was some mental health
Mm.
issues that he was having with forgetfulness and whatnot. And I remember watching some of that and being like, no, 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 no. That's just it. That's the way that he speaks. But that does go towards that representation sometimes, that culturally, of stutterers as not being intelligent, right? Uh,
Mm.
which is a difficult thing to overcome. Yeah,
Yeah, well, I think that the King's speech probably helped with that a little bit too.
it did. Yes, I think it did too.
So
Yes,
that's a good thing.
yes, it's
So this is
definitely
yeah.
changing. Yeah,
So
yeah.
this is for reading teachers, and a lot of times with as teachers are trying to encourage children to read and read aloud, I would think that
Oh,
stuttering
yeah.
would be just the biggest nightmare of all. Do you have any suggestions for reading teachers on how to work with children who may stutter and not have the just not have the confidence to be able to read aloud?
Yes, that's a difficult question. I mean, I think that um, for me, what's always worked is a couple things. Is is kind of delighting in the way that my stutter sounds. I think that I've done a lot of poetry readings over the years, so I read out loud a lot, and so sometimes I have people in the audience who laugh, and it's I think sometimes it's important that sometimes that laughter is coming from hearing language in a new way. So I think sometimes what's worked for me is to be accepting of that, of how people will sometimes say, like, I've never heard anything like that before, or the way you said you know, I don't know, a banana or butter is
Mhm.
different. So I think sometimes I would say what's worked for me is kind of less about affection and fluency, and more about delighting in the words, and even being okay with the struggle, uh, as kind of part of the reading process and part of who you are.
Thank you. Yes, I think that that's probably really helpful to the teachers. And I hadn't really thought about, I mean, we think about the music, the voice as being a musical instrument in a way.
Mhm.
And there's also a percussive quality to that.
Yes.
And I would think that with the stutter, that kind of could emphasize the percussive quality in a very pleasing way. So yeah,
Yes. Yes.
very
Yeah.
interesting. Yeah. Well, and part of the whole own voices movement that we're seeing right now with picture books and with books in general is just empowering people who have the voices to speak to their own experiences and share those experiences,
Yes. Yes.
turn
Yes.
their audiences. Yeah,
Yes. Yeah.
great. Well, do you have anything final you'd like to say to our audience before we end this short interview and people can go out and look for this book themselves? I Talk Like a River by Jordan Scott, published by Holiday House. I have to say that. So.
Yeah. No, I'm just really appreciative that people are taking the time to read the book, um, and to learn more about stuttering and voice, and perhaps even shyness, and this idea of fluency that we have and disfluency. So it's important to me, and I'm very proud of the book as a collaborative effort. And yeah, I know there's a lot of books out there, so I just wanted to say thank you for those that are spending their time with it.
Well, it has gotten 6-star reviews so far, which is about as many as you can get.
Right.
But if you just buy 5 picture books this year, this should be one of them. So thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me today, and we just look forward to seeing this book out in the world and doing good.
Oh yeah, thank you so much.
Very, very much.